All right, hello everybody. I'm Joe Ahern, and today I'm here with Jacob Griffith, Avery Foster, and Ian Hussey right next to me. So the company we've been analyzing this semester is DraftKings Incorporated. A lot of you guys are probably familiar with it. It's DraftKings is one of the largest legal sports books in America, and through all of our analysis this semester, we're going to hear to figure out for them different ways for them to expand their business and grow their market share. So today we're gonna a little table of contents. We're gonna be talking about their macro environment, where they sit in the industry, and then them as a current firm and their environments and their strengths and everything. And then we're gonna be talking about different strategic alternatives that we're gonna be focusing on. A final recommendation, and then just kind of a conclusion, question and answer. And we understand you aren't watching this live or anything, but would love to hear some comments and suggestions afterwards if you guys can post that. So with further ado, I'm going to pass it off to Jacob.
Thank you. So obviously, as consumers, we've seen how the COVID-19 pandemic has greatly shaped and molded the U.S. economy, as well as how the federal government's strong economic response has helped influence economic outcomes. Obviously, as we've seen, due to public health lockdowns, consumers here have been, in one way or another, barred from enjoying in-person services they're accustomed to, such as dining out, going out to drink, or attending a ball game. This has greatly decreased and negatively impacted the service economy. However, with the creation of various economic aid programs and stimulus payments created through the CARES Act passed in March of 2020 and President Biden's American Rescue Plan passed in March of this year, consumers have actually seen their income remain steady despite unemployment rising and their wage growth falling drastically. Additionally, the Federal Reserve has kept interest rates at historic lows, which has given consumers and businesses easy access to credit. Due to these developments, consumers have actually been spending more money than they usually do on goods and services that they can enjoy within the comfort of their own home. So companies with products and services that are easily accessible through a computer or one smartphone, such as Amazon, Facebook, Twitter, and yes, even DraftKings, have seen their financial position strengthen. Another thing that has been changing in the macro environment has been the legal and political environment surrounding sports betting. Um, with the passing of the Professional and Amateur Sports Protection Act, otherwise called PASPA, in 1993, the federal government essentially barred sports betting and gambling outside of the state of Nevada. However, in 2018, the U.S. Supreme Court overturned this law in the case Murphy versus NCAA, which has given the states effectively the ability to implement and pass legislation allowing sports betting within their own jurisdictions. Since then, we've seen 21 states 19 states legalize sports betting. And as of April 7th of this year, 23 states have sports betting laws working in the state legislatures, which would allow sports betting. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it off to Avery, who's going to talk about the industry and our firm environment specifically.
Yeah, thank you. Within the industry environment, we found that there's a low threat of new entrants and a low threat of substitutes. This is mainly due to the high risk and volatility of market availability, with specifically laws regulating the sports betting industry. This means that DraftKings and other people in the industry have to pay a lot of money to lobby against these laws, but as this changes, so does the threat of entrants and substitutes, such as just as recently as Michigan within the year deregulating sports betting within its state. There is a variation of industry suppliers, which can include the government because they do allow sports betting within their states, and without it, DraftKings' business model is non-existent, um, along with the government as a supplier. So are sports agencies, because they supply the games, and without the games, DraftKings would be non-existent. And as far as the buyers, it's typically young adults and especially males within the demographic. And then going on to the firm environment, there is a market share of 24.5%, which is just a little bit under FanDuel, its primary competitor. In 2017, there was a proposed merger between the two, but it was then shot down by the regulating government because that would transfer into a market share of over 50%, making it a monopoly. But this does show when looking at FanDuel, their direct competitor, that they are willing to work with DraftKings as long as it increases their bottom line, and they're primarily profit focused. There is a new merger with an SPAC this year with DraftKings that just as far as last week allowed them to become a public company without all of the rules and regulations of becoming a public company as a single entity of DraftKings. And so with this merger, they're allowed to bypass some of the red tape and stuff that would bring them down. The CEO is confident that even though this is a bad environment with the pandemic and lessened sports games, that the seasonality of the market will ultimately lead to an increased market percentage. And then here to talk about strategic alternatives is Ian.
Yeah, so based on all the analysis that we've done, we've come up with 3 strategic alternatives for DraftKings to pursue to expand their brand and market share. The first of which is to expand internationally. DraftKings faces quite a bit of legal restriction within the United States, but in Europe, there are 2 countries in particular that have quite a bit of freedom when it comes to sports betting, those being France and Germany. They have legal sports betting. They require their bookmakers to have licenses, which builds credibility for people to want to use sports betting services. And Germany in particular has no taxes on winnings. The second strategic alternative is to build more exclusive partnerships with major league sports. One in particular that's been very successful over the past year has been with the NFL. And as we start to see a transition go from COVID restrictions into more open, more seating, we're going to really want to see DraftKings pursue those partnerships and really capitalize on the new open experience that's going to be occurring here soon. And then finally, our final recommendation is to build a partnership with the Kentucky Derby and Churchill Downs. But here to talk more about that is Joe.
Yeah, so our final recommendation is to partner with the Kentucky Derby. So the Kentucky Derby is one of the largest and most popular sporting race events when it comes to horsing in the country and honestly the world. In 2019, there's $165 million that was wagered in a single day on the event. So this poses a great opportunity for DraftKings to expand their brand, especially into horse racing, which they don't currently have any share of. It's a growing market, and with upward trends and interest to the Derby, it's definitely a way for them to expand and grow their dominance and market share in the American market and diversify their products and their offerings. So that's the wrapping up of our presentation. Thank you so much, and leave us some comments on the post board. Thank you so much for listening, and have a good one.